Well, good day, folks. I'm here at the Lincoln Reagan Freedom Gala in Merced County, right in the heart of California. I am joined by Roger Wood, and he's active with the Merced GOP. How are things going in Merced? Well, first of all, welcome, sir.
Well, thank you. I'm probably one of the oldest people here tonight.
Well, you still got better hair than I do.
I've been very fortunate that I have a younger brother as bald as an egg, and somehow I didn't get that gene. But it's been a interesting life growing up here because I was born and raised here, and lived in Atwater all my life. Born in Merced because we didn't have a hospital that had babies in Atwater, and our family had an agricultural operation that grew into a frozen food processing plant.
Well, that's still ag.
Yep, it was still ag. I had a couple years in the Army and 6 years in the school, and been in Atwater all the other years.
So, are you on the Central Committee here?
No, I'm not. I don't know who told you I was part of the Republican Central Committee here.
Nobody told me. I'm trying to find out what's going on.
No, I'm just.
Now, the chairman of the Central Committee here said you're a good guy to talk to.
You know what I do that's interesting is Casey Steed, the MC here tonight, works at the KYWS 1480 radio station, and I do an interview show called Community Conversations, and I interview 6 different people, 8 minutes apiece every week, and I learn, at my age, I learn stuff every Friday about these different people that I interview. Because we interview a couple of people from education, we interview a couple of people from the community, and then we interview a couple of people from city government and county government. It's a really interesting thing to do.
It sounds like a good thing, but I'm going to encourage you to find some local business owners and interview a few of those too, because independent small business owners bring a different perspective. They tend to be more conservative.
And we have quite a few of them around here, but I don't know how conservative our area is. I think we're outnumbered pretty badly in the registration thing. But,
then we need to get to work.
But one thing that is interesting, I think, is that not everybody votes their party, especially the Democrats. And so we've had some conservative people get elected to city councils and to supervisors races without being a Democrat, which is pretty good.
Well, I don't think that most people, they live their lives. How they vote is not necessarily connected to how they live their lives. Most people are fairly conservative in how they live their lives. We need to make it clear to them that the Democrats have lost their minds.
Well,
the Republicans are not perfect, but the Democrats have lost their minds. They can't define what a woman is.
That's the least of our problems, I think. It's more our issues are some of the crazy environmental rules that come up. I mean, Gavin Newsom is a wonderful example of why Democrats are going to ruin you if you stick with them very long. I mean, his mandate for electric vehicles when nobody wants to buy them, I mean, that makes a lot of good sense. And there's a lot of environmental rules that he's propagated. Some of those were blamed for the big fires down in Los Angeles last year because they had to have environmental clearance in order to clear the brush out of forests and stuff like that. And when all that brush is there, guess what it does? It burns real good.
It does, but he wants to blame other people and say, well, the Coastal Commission said. In other words, unelected, appointed bureaucrats suddenly had more power when it's convenient for Gavin Newsom.
But the Coastal Commission, I don't think, ruled where the fire started, unless they go way off the coast. I'm not sure
they go like a couple miles.
Do they really? But the fire started way further than that, I think. But anyway, those guys, some of them are appointed by the governor, too. So, I don't know that it's really fair for him to lay the blame on them when he probably appointed 2 or 3 of them.
All of them are either appointed by Lord Newsom or by Jerry Brown. And I miss Jerry Brown, and that really says a lot. That says a lot about how bad Newsom is.
It's a different Democrat Jerry Brown was, and his dad for that matter too. His dad was the one that helped get the California Canal in, the San Luis Reservoir and all that. That happened during his time. That was kind of, if I remember right, the last dam that was built in California might have been during the Jerry Brown's father's regime.
Well, we've got a little bit of common sense, and the Democrats used to have at least a little bit of common sense. So I don't know what to say. I just know that I can't move and leave out of this state without giving it my very best fight. So I'm here, even though I'm from Fresno County, live in Clovis, small little town.
Nice little town.
Nice little town. Proud to live there. But I can't leave without giving it my best fight. I've been blessed with all kinds of opportunities and gifts in my life, living in the greatest country in the world, living in the state that should be the best state in the world, or best state in the country. I'd say best state in the world, maybe.
It could be.
Should be. It should be.
It's one of the
but I don't
biggest
believe
in the
it
world.
is.
It's one of the biggest in the world. But, Clovis is a great place. I mean, they have a wonderful education system. They've had good city councils and managers, and they've shined a lot more than their neighbor Fresno, in my opinion.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I didn't accidentally move into Clovis. I've lived in Fresno and went, okay, there's a better way.
But those of us here, we don't have that opportunity.
Well,
but we can continue to try and make it better, though.
Well, but if you get out and vote, if you register voters, if you're willing to talk to your neighbors or do things like you have a show, just connecting people to their community and making them realize that they need to be part of the solution, not part of the problem, that's a big, important job that you do.
Yeah, the challenge is with my show, I try to be pretty apolitical, just by the nature of it. Where Casey's show, Citizen Watch, is very political, and he calls it like it is, and it does a really wonderful job. And he's on the air about an hour and a half or sometimes 2.5 hours a week just doing his opinion stuff, and he's watching closely the city council meetings, the supervisor meetings, that sort of thing. He's much better informed than I am. A very, really interesting guy.
Oh, he absolutely is. I'd say that there are all the seeds of hope and the possibility of change here in Merced County, and I just think that, actually, the last interview I had was with a young man named Adrian. I would say he's maybe 25. He lives in Atwater, and he's very political.
Oh, really?
And he's Hispanic, young man, smart young man. He's grabbing the bull by the horns. You know that he ran for city council?
What was his name? David?
Adrian Lopez Juarez.
I might have met him.
He is here tonight.
Okay.
So what I'm telling you is there's some young people, because old guys like me, we can do some, but we have to actually hand off the freedom to the next generation. So,
and then, I think that there's talk that the younger people are being more conservative than their parents, and I think that's a really good sign, and he may be a good example of that.
I think he is a good example of that. They take a survey, and they have for about 25 years now, of all the graduating seniors. And this last class of seniors, high school seniors, was identified at a higher level as conservative or very conservative than they've ever seen in the history of the poll.
Isn't that interesting? I've got 2 grandchildren that live with me, and I don't know what their politics are now, but they've only been exposed to conservative politics around my house.
Well, I'd say you got to have a conversation with them and teach them the principles of freedom.
Yep.
Why the First Amendment matters and what their rights are. There's all kinds of really great online, simple videos. Most of them aren't that long. Hillsdale College has Constitution 101. John Birch Society has Constitution is the Solution. Rick Green has Constitution Alive. That's part of Wall Builders. All of those are free.
Yep. And Hillsdale, I remember Rush Limbaugh pushing Hillsdale way back in his days. It was a really interesting time to hear him.
Absolutely. I was listening to Rush Limbaugh at either 18 or 19. I found him on my way to Sacramento. I was in Marysville, California, and I only had an AM radio in that little pitiful car. Worst car I ever owned. But somehow I got there and back. But more importantly, here is this guy on the radio, and for the first time I heard somebody talking about politics while having fun, while being conservative, and wasn't a stuffed shirt like William F. Buckley. Instead, it was just a real guy.
I remember first listening to him. We have a freezer plant in Atwater, but we also had a plant in Sanger down near below Clovis. And I was working down there on a daily basis, and while I was driving, I had the radio station on. I think it was the KOS 1480 station I'm on now. And Rush Limbaugh was on there, and I thought, boy, that guy's kind of interesting.
Well, if you were that far down, you were probably listening to KMJ. 580.
As I leave here, I was listening to the KYOS, and Rush was on both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and he was just such a great guy. I hate to see him leave.
Agreed, but he has a great legacy.
Yep. And Dan Bongino did a nice job too. Now the darn guy's in government. You know?
Yeah, well, sometimes those things happen. Nonetheless, while there'll never be another Rush Limbaugh, there's all of these new voices that passionately believe they need to speak up about what's happening in our world and defending conservative principles.
Now, there's a guy on KYOS that comes on only at 9 to 10 at night, but he's on Washington, D.C. like 9 to 12 or something. And I can't remember his name right now because I'm sitting here with being old and can't remember stuff. But the guy is humorous and conservative, and it's a great combination.
Oh, it is. You break down so many barriers when you're having some fun. You're maybe even funny. One of the things I loved about Rush Limbaugh is his whole idea of illustrating the absurd with absurdities. So he went a little over the top. He took a little bit of that kind of radio shock jock and brought it to talk radio.
Yep, and the guy started in Sacramento. Do you remember that?
That's where I first started listening. I was listening before he went national.
I think I might have heard him before too, but I'm not positive about that. And it's always funny how he made those jokes about Rio Linda.
Oh,
Poor old Rio Linda.
Well, it was a pretty rough little town for a while. It's not so bad now.
It was a county suburb. I mean, a Sacramento suburb there.
Kind of north and east end of Sacramento.
Yeah, just a little bit to the east. And I remember it had a lot of chicken farms way back in the old days. So.
It definitely did.
So now you grew up in Sacramento proper?
No, I grew up a combo of Fresno County and Yuba County.
Oh, okay. And
so I was from Yuba County from 0 to 5, and then I moved back to Yuba County from 17 to 22, but I was there every summer working on the family cattle ranch, so I learned how to work and do work that I didn't much love the work, but there's a value in teaching kids how to work because it makes them value what they have a lot more. Hard work is good for you.
We had a freezer plant. It's now owned by Dole. I live on the Dole, by the way. And it taught a lot of kids that they wanted to do more than work in a freezer plant.
That's okay.
Yeah. They were 18 to 20-year-old, and that was one of their first jobs or something, and they knew real soon that there was more things to do and to get some education and so that you'd be eligible for a better job than the labor job of taking care of, processing fruit like we were doing.
Yes, and I agree with what you're saying about that. But at the same time, I would not have wanted to miss that opportunity to teach me.
And that's we used to do fresh peaches, and then I hired like about 75 high school age children, boys and girls both, to run that plant because it only ran during the summertime and it only ran pretty much while school was out. And it was a wonderful work experience.
2 months maybe?
It was, it was probably June, July, and August, probably 3 months.
Probably 3? Okay.
And it was a wonderful experience because we worked pretty long hours. Certain times when certain varieties were ripe, we'd work 10-hour days and 7 days a week. And the kids learned about what hard work was. And you don't learn that working for McDonald's part-time 20 hours a week and thinking you're a fully employed person, No fault of McDonald's. It looks to me like they work pretty hard there, but they don't work very long.
Nope.
So
hard work makes the man, I believe.
I think so, and ag is really good at that, but ag isn't near so big as it used to be. It's all automated with almond orchards. You don't need very many guys to do an almond orchard, but it took a lot of people to do peaches like what we had.
Well, I thank you for this time. Appreciate you coming on a few minutes.
It was a pleasure chatting with you.
And you have a good evening.
Thank you.